the uh, the Connecticut Cannabis Small Business Alliance. This is our December meeting and the end of our year. It's been a great year. It's actually been our first full year running. A lot of stuff for tonight to have as a discussion. I know that we're going to hear from DJ on some of the social media impact from. I'm not sure if everybody heard, but just after MJ BizCom, a lot of accounts started getting shut down through Instagram. And so we're going to hear from DJ on some of the different reasons for the cause. Um, just to be point blank, there are no beautifully positive stories that come from it. So please don't be too scared off by it. It does mean that the algorithms have changed in the background, and Meta is now acting as if it's a badass. And so there are other platforms. Kristen can speak to the values that come with TikTok and LinkedIn and others, but we'll hear from DJ on the topic and what's been happening within the Instagram world. We're also going to hear from one of our members, Rebecca. There was some impact due to um, we at our event had a wonderful organization show up and provide us with a truck and a safe haven. That safe haven acted as a place for people to consume their cannabis while on property. It also provided privacy for us so that we're not standing out in the middle of a parking lot like we were back in high school. For those of us that were in high school during the days of having smoking sections, it prevented us from being ostracized, and it gave us the opportunity for those people that did need to consume medicinally. They had a private space, just like if you were someone who had to have an insulin shot, you have the ability to have privacy. And so there was some uproar around the DCP and around the fact of using this vehicle or this trailer as a space to consume, being a consumption lounge, and it is not. It is simply a safe haven. So we're going to hear from Rebecca on that topic later on tonight. Um, and there's some great news that comes from that. I think Rebecca really championed the cause, but the Connecticut Cannabis Small Business Alliance had some impact at that space. That was obviously due to some complaints and some idiotic trolls within the internet who are consistently kind of attacking the community as a whole. And I'm not going to mention names. I'm just going to leave it as that. The same idiots really kind of come back and backlash on the use of AI. Hopefully, we'll hear from Ken tonight on a little bit of what we have from an AI platform within for our members and those people that join within our membership alliance. Remember, members have access to AI and to be able to utilize AI for a whole multitude of things, whether it's for actually building a business plan, whether it's for analyzing the market, whether it's for coming up with social media or marketing capabilities, or whether it's just to learn simple things like formulation and what are good ingredients to use to be able to add value medicinally or holistically to some of the different products that you're manufacturing. We have a great crowd tonight. We have folks that are coming to us from all over. I actually see some folks that haven't joined in the past, and I'm really glad to see the depth and breadth of some of the folks that are joining tonight. We do have Analytics Lab on with us, and I know we have Dr. Stefano Pritcher who is on with us. So Dr. Steph has been in this fight since the very, very, very beginning. We have a number of farmers, and to our farmers, tonight's a special night, to be point blank with you. Tonight we also have the wonderful ability to hear from to us a hero of the community. So Genevieve is on with us with Sound Legal. I have the screen up that's coming from MJ Biz talking about the lawsuit that she is bringing to the state of Connecticut federally. So she's bringing a federal lawsuit on behalf of smoke shops and hemp farmers and hemp in general and the wrong that we have suffered over the past 2 years. I'll let her tell her story, but she is definitely a modern day Robin Hood to us. And we appreciate her bringing that battle and that fight. For the farmers and the brands that are out there, we also have a number of manufacturers that are on the horn today. Those are the Connecticut manufacturers. The Connecticut manufacturers are suffering right now because a lot of the out-of-state hemp that's coming in are popping. They're popping on things like chromium. They're popping on things that most states aren't actually running in their COAs or their certificate of authenticity, meaning their labs. And that's because they're being done out of state, and those states that they're being done in don't either don't have the same requirements that we have, being the state of Connecticut and our legal requirements, meaning the parts per million that are able to be found within things like molds and microbials. Additionally, in metals, Connecticut is one of the few states that are actually looking for chromium right now. Um, it's imperative that everyone within the cannabis environment, within our cannabis community, get access to only the best and safest products that are on the market. There's also been a lot of reporting out there on different dispensaries, molds, microbials in both states, the state of Connecticut and the state of Massachusetts. And some of those folks that are doing those presentations of data are, in part fear mongering, but at the same time being really astute people within the industry itself. Um, it is our responsibility as manufacturers. It is your responsibility as a brand to ensure that you are using tamper seal on your products. If your products aren't tamper sealed and there's somebody in the community who sends in one of your products to a lab and it comes back failing tests, honest to God, that's on you. It's on you because you don't have tamper seal. If you provide a tamper seal and labs are sent in and that tamper seal is tampered with, it makes it very difficult for them to point at you and say it is your product that has a problem, whether it's a metal or whether it's solvents or whatever. So for all of you brands that are on tonight, I really want to emphasize to you, make sure you are using tamper proofing as your final step of manufacturing on your products. It is imperative. Do not leave it so that somebody can open your jar, put something into the product that you have manufactured, and then send it into a lab and make it look like your products are not compliant, or worse yet, something that can harm people. So my call to action to you as brands and as manufacturers is to, although it's not required by the state of Connecticut, make sure that you're using tamper seals within your product manufacturing. That is more of an FDA compliance. Food and Drug Administration's compliance from a drug perspective is the highest level compliance that you could meet. If you build your SOPs, your set operational procedures, and your standard operational procedures and your processes around the FDA drug manufacturers compliance requirements, you will pass every requirement within the country. And so I urge you to take one step higher in what you're building as far as your SOPs and your own company's personal standards and push them towards a national perspective. For our hemp farmers, what that means is that manufacturers in the state of Connecticut are going to be interested in getting your terpenes. Right now, the state is demanding that terpenes come from only cannabis derived. They cannot be botanically derived. The reality is that the cannabis shortage in the state of Connecticut does not give us the ability to produce terpenes, which means hemp is the only go-to that these folks have. Not only that, but again, they're going to start hunting for their miners. We are working with DCP right now. Let me be very, very, very clear. There are no licenses in the state of Connecticut that allow us to be in possession of anything over 0.3% THC. As an extraction company, this is a major concern because obviously, when I'm extracting hemp that starts off at less than 0.3% and then ends up becoming greater than 0.3% during its concentration, in order for me to take it from the hemp and apply it to a tincture, a lotion, or any other product, it becomes a concentrate. And the simple concept of a concentrate is that it takes the tier that it's taken from and it makes it a higher value. So that 0.3% is obviously going to become more. But in the state of Connecticut's eyes, There are 0 licenses that allow anyone, manufacturer or not, unless you have a cannabis license, to be in possession of anything higher than 0.3% throughout your manufacturing process. Our lobbyists and our attorneys are working very diligently to fix that radical mistake that lies within our current laws, which prevent us from truly manufacturing. However, I think what the DCP's goal is to assure that we get it put into the new and current law, which there is public testimony right now on the cannabis. So you can submit public testimony on the new cannabis laws that are being outlined. And I really would love everyone to be a part of that. If you need help, our AI can help you, or you can find a mentor within our group to help you. But there is a very positive outlook for our hemp farmers that are on the calls today and our brands that are on the calls today. That outlook is that we will be in a place where at least we can sell an isolate and terpenes at the moment to our Connecticut manufacturers. And so there are some very big positives that are happening. The real national news right now happens to be that California is literally blowing hemp out of the water and radically removing it from the spectrum of manufacturing and consumers. They're literally going through a massive ban on just about everything hemp. And it's the first that we're seeing within the country, and it's something that everybody should be concerned with. Other states' laws will have a way of leading our state into the same dark corner. Get involved nationally, get involved on a federal level, and get involved on the local level. This is the time where your political voice needs to be heard, and I call on all of you to use it. Again, we have tools on the CCSBA website for you to use to help you to build anything you need, whether it's just simply a notice of concern. And again, this is just a blocker. It just helps remove that inhibition, right? So use it as a tool to start you off and then write it in your own words. Make sure that you're advocating in your own words, not necessarily one derived straight from AI, but use AI as a motivator to help you get past your own personal inhibitions and your own personal blockers of getting that body of work done and done first. So, is there anybody, for today's call, we do have a good list of people that have joined. If you have a question, please raise your hand. You can raise your hand by going into your control bar that's at the top, and your control bar will allow you to raise your hand within the participant emojis that are there. And so please do that. Additionally, if you want to use our chat, please use our chat to ask questions. I will ask those questions to whoever our speaker happens to be. I just want to try to avoid people stepping over each other because I have a feeling the topic is going to get rather hot rather quick here. And so with that, I'd like to just take a minute. I'd like to introduce our modern day Robin Hood, Genevieve, from Sound Legal. She is going to be, again, just opening the floor and having a quick discussion and explaining what she can. She is very limited because this is a lawsuit. On the lawsuit that she has brought federally against the state of Connecticut. And Genevieve, if you have a moment and want to just test your mic real quick, again, we thank you so much for your effort. And there are a number of farmers that are on this call. For those of you folks that want to reach out to Genevieve, you have the opportunity to chat with her. Please let her have a minute and go through her discussion. Don't hit her right this second. But when she's done, hit her up in the chat on a private session and get her your information. Genevieve, are you there?
I am.
Brilliant. I'm going to go ahead and mute. And again, thank you so much for joining our community call today.
Awesome. I'm going to turn my video on so that I am not a disembodied voice in the wilderness. So hopefully everybody can see me.
Yes, we can.
All right, good. I can see your screen, so I'm hoping. So, hello, I'm Genevieve. I'm from Sound Legal. We are a small but mighty law firm here in Connecticut. We practice in the area of criminal law, civil rights law, and hemp and cannabis law. Um, I came into the hemp area. I will tell you that I'm a grower of cannabis plants. I'm a consumer of cannabis plants, but I'm also a consumer of the law and of the rules. So that intersection of my personal interests brought me to the case that we have today. It was started initially because a couple of the owners of the Puff City franchise have been both criminally prosecuted and they've had enforcement actions taken against them by the state of Connecticut's Department of Consumer Protection. And the reason they've had these enforcement actions is because they are also vape holder licenses. And so the state has used that status as a seller of vape to reach in and prosecute them for the sale of hemp. As we all know, hemp is hemp, marijuana is marijuana, and they are two different things. Connecticut somehow along the way has gotten confused and doesn't understand that there's no such thing as high THC hemp. There's hemp and there's marijuana. Hemp is legal, marijuana is regulated. We brought this lawsuit in federal court because of our concerns that the Connecticut state courts would be unwilling or hesitant to rule on a state statute that we're claiming is unconstitutional. That's one reason why we brought it in federal court. The second is the federal court tends to take a little more time in matters like this to understand the facts, to understand the laws. And also, while at the same time of taking that time to really understand, the federal courts generally do tend to move more quickly than our state courts. So for those reasons, we represent 12 plaintiffs, including several Puff City franchises. We represent a distributor and another gentleman who owns stores and is an investor. And we brought an action in federal court challenging Connecticut statutes that went into effect July and went into effect in October of this year. Um, Interestingly, before that, Connecticut had it right, right? We had a proper definition that said hemp is hemp, marijuana is something different, and we're going to regulate and license marijuana. Unfortunately, with the public acts that were enacted in this year, some went into effect in July, some went into effect in November, we've decimated that landscape of hemp and marijuana. Um, Connecticut is an interesting state in that our agriculture rules, as you all know, adopt the Farm Bill, right? We're a Farm Bill state, and we define hemp as defined in the 2018 Farm Bill. But at the same time, in our hemp, in the section 420 of the statutes, and I find that ironic, that govern the licensing of marijuana, we've bastardized and changed our very own definition of hemp. And that's a problem. And I'll tell you that the reason it's a problem is primarily because there's good law and good facts that say, I put in the chat, there's something called, it's a conference report to the 2018 Farm Bill. And a conference report, if you haven't seen one before, sort of explains in general and practical terms what the statute is purported to do, what the purpose of the statute is. And I put that in the chat for anyone who'd like to look at it. But I want to quote to you some language from the 2018 Farm Bill, or from this conference report, rather. And it says, it talks about what this Farm Bill was supposed to do. And it says that managers do not intend to limit what states and tribal governments include in their tribal plans as long as it's consistent, right? The same with the 2018 Farm Bill. Most importantly, for example, and this is a quote, states and tribal governments are authorized to put more restrictive parameters on the production of hemp, but are not authorized to alter the definition of hemp. And that's what Connecticut's done, right? Connecticut's taken has decided there's something called high THC hemp. And in doing that, we've changed our laws in Connecticut to now say any hemp, any cannabis derived product that has any THC of any kind, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta, I don't know, 142, any THC content above 0.3 is marijuana. And that's not what the Farm Bill says. What the Farm Bill says is Delta 9.3 and below is hemp, right? Delta 9.3 and above is marijuana, and they don't care about the rest. They're not regulating Delta 8 or any of the other aspects of cannabis. So that's problem number one that we have with Connecticut's laws is they directly contradict the Farm Bill that they incorporate by reference. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is, and I'm sure you're in where you're sitting or seeing this, now we've impermissibly impacted interstate commerce, right? There's something called federalism in our country, and there's federal laws and there's state laws. Federal laws govern commerce between the states, right? Between New Jersey and Texas and Massachusetts, and state laws govern commerce within the state. So by changing these laws and making hemp, which is federally legal, now illegal in the state of Connecticut, it's our position that they've impermissibly burdened interstate commerce. Our other challenge goes to the rule is if I don't know if anyone's taken the time to read the four statutes that were implemented this year, but they are a hodgepodge, gobbledygook of conflicting information, and some of them conflict generally within themselves. So they don't make sense. And what the law says is this: the average human being, not lawyers, not politicians, but average people are supposed to be able to read a law and understand what it means. And if an average person of average intelligence cannot do that, there's a concept called impermissibly vague. And that impermissible vagueness actually rises to a constitutional problem because you can't follow the rules if you don't know what they are. And so our federal courts have said if the rules are so convoluted, so confusing, so badly written that an average human being, let alone a lawyer, can figure them out, then they are vague and they are unconstitutional. One of the other challenges we have is to a criminal statute, and the criminal statute as written actually invites people to sell marijuana and barbiturates rather than prohibit it. It's a typo, it's what we call a Scribner's error, but unfortunately it's the law. So you can't use a law that's badly written or wrongly written and try to enforce it against people if it's not an enforceable law. So that's what we're trying to do. What are we asking for? We're asking the federal court to make Connecticut stop. We're asking the federal court for something called an injunction. What an injunction does is prohibit any further action. So what we're asking the courts to say is, look, Connecticut's rules that were enacted in 2024 are wrong. They're vague, they're completely not understandable, but more importantly, they directly violate both interstate commerce and the 2018 Farm Bill. And because of that, we're asking the court to make Connecticut stop. That the law, we're asking the court to find that they're not enforceable, that they're unconstitutional, and essentially erase them from our laws in the state of Connecticut. We filed our action, I think we filed it a couple days before Thanksgiving. Today, we made an action against the state of Connecticut, which is headed by Governor Lamont. We've also included the Department of Consumer Protection to make them stop. We've also included the state of Connecticut's criminal division to make them stop enforcing these laws criminally. And we've brought it against the Attorney General because the Attorney General is the enforcement arm that enforces these things civilly. And I'm sure you've seen that in the news. And unfortunately, hopefully, or hopefully not, you've come across the AG in an enforcement action. So we're asking the state to stop. They did file an appearance today. The state of Connecticut has asked for a bit of time to review our allegations and file what's called a responsive pleading. That responsive pleading is their opportunity to say that I'm sure that they're going to say we're wrong and try to explain why we're wrong. And then from there, we'll proceed in federal court. We'll present our evidence, and hopefully that will prevail. I will tell you that I think that we've got a really good shot on this case. I think that anyone that's read the rules at least can see that you can't read them, right? You can't figure them out. So we've got four opportunities to succeed in this litigation. I think the Farm Bill preemption is enough, but I think we have enough other items in there to get the court's attention and to get the court to take some action.
Genevieve, I just want to say thank you again from our whole community. Are you open to taking some questions?
I am. The one thing I want to say is, I do represent these 12 individual plaintiffs, so I've got to be careful about, I don't want to trample on the attorney-client privilege, and I don't want to talk about strategy, because I don't want to, of course, give my hand away, but I will answer what I can.
Outstanding. So from the community, if you cannot figure out how to raise your hand, it's under the word react. So there's a react where you can click and raise your hand. But if you can't, just go ahead and unmute your mic and just be respectful of other folks. Um, Aaron, I just want to, and for those of you who might ask a question, can you please just introduce yourself and what vertical you focus on? I'm sure, Aaron, you have some questions, and Aaron is actually our ombudsman for the state. She works for the state of Connecticut, but she is the one that is representing, obviously, all patients and patients' rights and needs. But Aaron, would you just introduce yourself properly? I know you probably have some questions to start us off.
I really would have unmuted simply to say, you are a badass. This is amazing. We've been waiting and waiting for someone to be able to do this. And really, my hat is off to you. We are thrilled that you are taking on this case. I think you've got a really good case, too.
Thank you.
My name's Erin Gorman Kirk. I'm the first in the nation cannabis ombudsman, putting the bud back in ombudsman here.
Congratulations.
And, thank you, thank you. We are trying to keep the patients' voices, first and foremost. It's been a rough road, and a lot of patients want whole spectrum CBD. So, I mean, if we could prevail in this way, because I do work on Capitol Hill, and the Farm Bill is not going to be picked up for a bit. So,
Exactly.
we know that. We know that. So I just wonder, tell us what the timeline is. What do you think if, say, the Farm Bill is, we're hearing March, hard to say, but I mean, what do you think the timeline is? And would other hemp farmers from other states be able to join this federal action? Or are you just, going to straight through on the Connecticut, which is fine and cool with me?
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. The timing of our lawsuit, I can tell you that the state doesn't plan to file responsive pleading until the end of February. But there are some other things that we can do that I don't want to talk about, but there are some other options that we have to try to move that along a bit quicker. And I think that we're going to do that very soon, probably by the end of the year. So we do have some things that we can try to do, and I'm sure you can
Cool.
guess what they are. Um, I actually was just at the normal legal conference last week in Key West. And one of the things we talked about was the legislative agenda with the hemp, updating the farm bill, and, updating what's going on in Connecticut and all these other states like California. They don't see, because of the DEA and the rescheduling hearings, it's their thought that because that's going to get all the focus, the actual revisions to the hemp bill or to the farm bill itself will get kicked down the road. I'm not a legislative guru like that, so I'm going to rely on them for their knowledge and expertise. But to me, that sounds reasonable. I also, thought it was interesting is that a lot of people in a lot of states and a lot of legislatures say, oh, well, we have to regulate hemp because it's a loophole in the farm bill. From what I heard from the normal people and my own reading, it's not a loophole, it's an intentional. It was intentionally made to allow this product to be legal. I think calling it a loophole is a misnomer, and it doesn't give justice to people actually understanding what hemp is. So I think that, and I interestingly, just I'll digress for a minute. We all know that that marijuana for recreational use was not legalized in Florida, right?
Yeah.
However, what I found interesting is the reason why. And my take from the reason why is this. Florida, their legislature tried to enact legislation like we have in Connecticut, basically stripping away the Delta 9 bright line test, right?
Mhm.
And DeSantis, of all people, vetoed that. And I was surprised. And the reason he vetoed it was to protect the hemp farm, to protect the hemp industry. So he loves Delta 9 down in Florida. So I found that to be really interesting that a state is so staunchly against recreational marijuana is all for going right up to the line and selling hemp. So there was a lot of interesting information that came out of that we're going to use in this litigation. I've been asked by a few different groups for people to join as plaintiffs, and I have to tell you, there's two schools of thought on that, right? Is one is strength in numbers, but then the
Yeah.
other is diluting the case if people have different perspectives. One thing we're not doing in this case is delving down into the different cannabinoids. Am I saying that right? I think I am. And the delta 8 difference and the synthetically derived difference, because I think when you get too far down in the weeds, you lose the essential bright line test, which is delta 9, 30% and up is hemp. Is marijuana, below is hemp. And that's that
Mm-hmm.
bright line that we want to emphasize because I think that's where Connecticut got that wrong. We're exploring, there's a way that people can get involved by filing a friend of the court brief, where you don't actually become a party to the case, but you file something that says, hey,
Yeah.
I'm similarly situated. And for people who want to do that, that may be a better way for them to tell their story, but not be a plaintiff and not be named in the case. And if people want to do that, we can certainly help facilitate that for those folks. And if there are other folks that are, sitting in the same shoes as our plaintiffs, which are smoke shop owners, distributors, and investors, if there are people in those exact seats, they'll probably be better fit to be actual plaintiffs if they wanted to do that. We do have until, let's see, I think we filed this on the 23rd. And we have 60 days from November 23rd to amend our complaint. And by amending the complaint, we could include allegations, which I would not do, but we could include additional parties. So we do have about another, gosh, us lawyers are terrible at math. I want to say 45 days.
Because
To
there are
add
people in
additional
Jersey
parties.
and Maryland who are suffering from the same rules. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people up and down the coast. And
Absolutely.
and you alluded to the DEA hearing. I am a designated party to that endeavor, which has
Oh, that's
been
great.
an imbroglio of serious imbroglios. And there will be civil litigation in the circuit courts that may make the other action moot. Who knows? But it's been interesting because I was at MJ Biz while you were at Normal. And of all things, the Trump advance team came from Mar-a-Lago to MJ Biz to talk to some people about having a cannabis department, maybe legalizing.
Wow.
What do we think of the scheduling? I was pretty shocked. I've been doing politics for 40 years. I was like, they did what? I mean, and back to your other point about hemp and not caring so much about cannabis. John Tester, the now defeated buddy of mine out of Montana, wrote the Farm Bill with of all people, Mitch McBlankle. And, it's because they're both huge hemp guys. They grow a lot of hemp in Kentucky and Montana. They understood, as you said, the loophole was not a loophole. We want to be able to use the entire damn plant for anything we want, whether it's building tiny homes for Native Americans and homeless people, which is a project we've been trying to do there, or whether it's, the Delta 9, because he's a veterans advocate and he cares much more about hemp and the jobs that provides and hemp and the relief CBD provides than cannabis because he doesn't understand cannabis.
Right.
That's just not his thing. He's a hemp guy. He's a farmer. So, I mean, you're right. And I think your federal issue is definitely the way to go, given the intransigence. And I say this not as a state employee, but I do say this publicly. I mean, there is some willful ignorance here. There are people that actually said last session, elected officials, I didn't know you could grow cannabis outside. I mean, I'm yelling Thomas Jefferson from the gallows. I'm like, what is happening? So, I mean, you have a bit of an uphill battle, but I know there's other people that want to chat. I'm taking too much time, but I know we're all psyched. I know there are people that are really thrilled from other states that have called me and said, you finally got somebody that's, going to go kick some ass and take some names. So my hat's off to you and I thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Steph, I think you had a question. I'm not sure of that question. Do you want to just ask your question out loud?
Oh, hi there, guys. An honor, and really, and Michael, thank you for putting this together. You really, and the ladies, all of you kick ass. I'm in awe. So thank you. My question was, there was some kind of a term for adding yourself to the case, not formally, but I just didn't quite hear it.
Yes, in English it's called friend of the court. In Latin it's an amicus brief. And basically what you would say is you file something that says this is, you know, who I am. This is my position. This is how these laws affect me. And court, I'd like you to know that your decision in this case not only affects the named plaintiffs, but will affect me. And as a friend of the court, I'm giving you my information.
Excellent. Excellent. And do you have a template, or would you be, or somebody on the team? I know you're busy. A template for people that might be interested.
You know what? I hadn't thought about it, but I think that's an absolutely good idea, and I'm very happy to do that because you know this case is bigger than me. I feel fortunate to be able to be in this opportunity, you know, to have this opportunity. But I am not the end all be all of knowledge about cannabis and hemp and marijuana. So the more people that we can help, the better. So I'm absolutely, if you can guys can give me a few days, I'm happy to put together a template. You guys can fill it out, put it in the group. We can formalize some things and I can help you submit them to the court again. So you're not as part of the case, but you're telling the court your story.
Excellent, excellent. And then I have many patients. I guess I have the blessing to have many hats in this
Can
area,
you
not just as
introduce
a
your
hemp farmer.
organization? Steph, could you introduce your group for a second?
Certainly, and I apologize for my husky voice. I'm a bit sick with the cold, so I apologize. But yes, so I'm Dr. Steph. I'm a country doctor. I've been in the area here, North Stonington, for almost 20 years, taking care of all of our patients, and it extends out to different states, and you know, all different walks of life. So I guess as soon as it became possible, with Michael's help, and of course Yukon and a lot of other people, we started hemp farming as well under the auspices of our nonprofit organization, Better Together CT, that helps veterans reintegrate through farming, fellowship, and the arts. So all these things that Michael talks about, from manufacturing and this and that, I mean, he means it, and I've been learning from him as much as I can, but you know, you can only do so much. All I know right now is the patients are so upset because they cannot get CBD in the dispensary. They all say that they don't want to be impaired during the day. The cannabis is a nighttime relief, and the CBD used to provide daytime relief without any kind of impairment. And now it's not there. So these people are really mad. So I patience. So I was like, well, guys, would you be willing to like write that down? You know, or if you know, if I sent you some kind of a thing. So we have a potential audience of patients that would love to help.
That's great. And, you know, and you can tell folks also, you know, people are hesitant to have their name publicly associated with hemp or marijuana, and I understand that. So there's also ways to submit it as, you know, a John Doe or a Jane Doe. So if people don't want to have their personal information out there, but they want their story out there, you know, we can help facilitate that for them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And again, you kick ass.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Our next question comes from the Fritzes. So just would you just make sure you introduce yourself and your organization? So for my hemp farmers, look, if DCP makes the determination that our distillates are a concentrate and that concentrate cannot be transported legally, the Fritzes are, and their organization is the organization that we would be using to deal with that transport for us from manufacturer to manufacturer. So would you just take a minute and introduce your organization too before you ask your question, and the mic is yours.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough today. I'm Angie Fritz. I am the COO of the White Oak Bridge. We are adult use cannabis transporters right now in the market, and with me is my husband, Justin.
Hi, nice to talk to everyone.
I have a question because I wanted to know if is the plan or the goal to erase all of the like 5150, that particular bill, or just the sections that have to do with hemp? Because I guess I have yeah, that's my question. Sorry. Thank you.
No, no problem. In a broad stroke, the goal is to have the state redefine hemp as hemp. So every instance where hemp was changed, or these high, basically the high THC hemp, every instance where that's changed in the law, every instance where the bright line went from Delta 9.3 to all THC 0.3. The goal of the lawsuit is to undo and erase those definitional changes.
Oh, okay, I see. And another question that I have, and I apologize if I'm taking somebody else's spot, but um our experience with the regulator right now has been very interesting, and I wasn't sure if you would at least review experiences from the adult use cannabis side when it comes to dealing with the regulator. Because as you said, that some of the things that you noticed was that a law has to be understood by a regular person, and I made that case with some legislators um at the Capitol. Like, sometimes these things are hard to understand, and it shouldn't be this hard to understand. If we're being told to do this, then the next thing it gets changed, and it doesn't make any sense. So I was just asking if you would be open to have that feedback.
At first, yes, I'm absolutely to have that feedback. And my interactions so far have been with the regulators working, they're taking enforcement actions against people who hold tobacco and vape licenses. So that's how we got into this sector, working with the DCP, because they're using, those licenses as an enforcement tool for all these new statutes. I will tell you that the person that we've been working with at the AG's office has been reasonable. And, she's also made clear that her hands are tied. I don't want to speak for her about her thoughts on the change of the rules, but I will tell you that our experience has been, that they're frustrated too. And that's actually what prompted us to bring the federal case, because these enforcement actions and the lack of clarity, the only way to deal with an enforcement action in Connecticut is you have to go through the administrative procedures process and have an administrative hearing, and then you go to an appeal, and
Yeah.
and maybe 17 years later you go to court. So the reason we brought this in federal court was to short circuit, because we didn't think the administrative procedures uh, aspect of enforcement was the right forum, either for their ability to adjudicate, this big constitutional issue, or the timeliness. Because the few times that I've gone all the way with these, it's been years, and we don't want to wait years.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the end of this, I'll put my contact information in the chat. We have an office in Hartford. We have an office in Westbrook. But we go, I say me and I have a staff of 3, but we're a small but mighty staff, and we will come to you to meet with anybody who wants to be heard, so that we can try to take care of this, for the many. It's not just for my 12 clients.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And again, for those hemp farmers, you might want to take down Angie's information there, or send her a chat and get her information, because she will be pivotal to us being able to move our products right now in its concentrated form throughout the state, with the work that we're trying to push through with the Department of Consumer Protection. Steve, I saw your mic come unmuted for a minute. Did you have a question, Captain?
Yeah, I just
Introduce
everything
your
that
company.
you folks are undertaking. Am I killing you folks with volume? I can't tell.
No, you're good. Just introduce your company too, boss.
Sure. I'm Steve Levine. I am the inventor and marketer of One Hit Wonder, and I am a full-time smoker. I think that what you're undertaking legally is phenomenal, and I wish all the folks at Puff City luck with the way things work out for them. They're a great company. I just I'm an engineer. I take a view of things as a little bit differently. Everything is cause and effect. What does one action create as an unintended consequence wherever it may show up? And one of the things that we have to come to terms with hemp, we're dealing with it with cannabis. Cannabis has never killed anyone who's consumed too much. The fact that every month we have recalls for romaine lettuce and onions and everything else, that does kill people, that does paralyze people, and yet for some reason the Farm Bill emphasis on hemp is interesting. I want to refocus people on something that we may not think about. Hemp is a natural fiber as much as it is something we enjoy consuming. And when the petroleum industry exploded and they started refining uh, gasoline and jet fuel out of crude oil, they have tremendous byproducts. CNN reported 2 days ago on the microplastics that are in our systems that we're going to have a tough time getting out of our water supply, etc. These are connected. The petroleum lobbyists have an influence on hemp policy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is out of my head, and I'm putting cause and effect together. And it's something we need to be aware of, because no policy is going to make sense to us as hemp consumers and advocates when behind the scenes they need to keep hemp fiber out of the system. They need to maintain the flow of polyesters and acrylic fibers and whatever else they're throwing out there, unfortunately. It may not be something we see for 20 years, but I swear it's going to come up that this is all connected and it's all related to the low price of marketing plastics in place of quality hemp. And go back to the meeting where it should be. I'm going to go back to smoking and visualizing where the future is. All right. Thank
Steve,
you.
thanks for your
Thank you,
input, man.
everyone.
Absolutely. Okay. We do have a couple other topics to hit, and Genevieve, if you just want to stay with us here, because I think the next person that I'm going to call on, although I'm going to ask her to touch base. Again, I'd explained to folks that hemp stock again this year. So Dr. Stefana has been doing hemp stock from since the very first time ever, and she's now, I forgot
Mike,
how many
excuse
years.
me. One of my best events. I think I've attended 3 years. Couldn't make it the past two, and I may be off on my counts there, but definitely an under-recognized event. Pay attention, folks. Sorry to interrupt.
No, love
Thank
that.
you, honey.
And so hemp stock has been literally one of the very first and cornerstones of any organizations coming together, and kept, Dr. Steph is all about the holistic medicine on top of modern medicine, but she also is very integrated with the tribal side and what's happened down towards the Pequot area, and has been a champion of truly the indigenous side on top of us, the standard consumers. So Dr. Steph, when is hemp stock this year
Well,
coming up?
we're trying to pin down a date again, and maybe we could use your input, guys. We didn't want it to collide with anybody else's festival. We used to do it on the 13th, like Woodstock, but that interfered with too many musicians, and they were requesting we move it. So, yeah, that's up for discussion if people have any input. Every year it's been a different date. One year it was Jamaican Independence Day. Another year it was, Native American Day. It moves
Well,
around. So if you
keep
have
us
input,
posted, and we'll keep the
yeah.
community posted for sure. And you need
Oh,
input,
yes.
so we
Yeah,
can ask the community for that input.
so that we don't collide with another festival.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So the next person that I'm going to ask to talk, We actually have Noah from Emerald Lounge. That was the organization that I was talking about earlier. That organization was incredible for us at our event. Again, provided privacy and separation from the normal community consuming alcohol within the spaces that we were in. Incredible group. They got punched in the nose again by kind of the trolls of the internet. And we had one of our board members, Rebecca, jumped to help save and advocate, at least on our behalf and then on others' behalfs. Rebecca, would you just take 2 minutes and give us just a synopsis of what had happened? And would you also just introduce yourself, because I think Genevieve isn't necessarily aware of everyone, so you and what you do.
Okay, so hi, I'm Rebecca. I am actually the event manager for Expo Canna, Connecticut Cannabis Expo. Genevieve, I love that you are on this call. I have so many clients that I work with that can benefit from a quick conversation with you. What else? I'm a board member for the CCSBA, and I am also a representative for Emerald Lounge Events. And I am in the middle of trying to just grab my notes really quick. So to make a long story short as I can, there was an event that was being held at a brewery in Southington, and Emerald Lounge Events was invited to be there. It was TheraPlant. I mean, I think everybody here knows that TheraPlant asked them to be there. And basically what ended up happening was this same person put, a message out, tagged the DCP, the brewery, Connecticut Insider, Aaron, who's on the call, and pretty much anybody else he could. We caught wind that it went to the governor. They canceled after the DCP reached out to them. Well, they canceled with NOAA, not necessarily for their event. The DCP called a meeting for the brewery, TheraPlant, and Emerald Lounge to show up, which we did. We were a little bit surprised because it wasn't just the DCP, it was also the Liquor Commission and the Southington Police Department that showed up. I think Noah and myself did a really good job kind of getting the answers that we needed, which we are absolutely 100% as Emerald Lounge operating under the fullest extent of the law. TheraPlant was not present, and the brewery did a great job, backing up that he knows what's going on in his property. So basically what we ended up getting out of the meeting was that the DCP stated their involvement was based on the following, which were complaints to the commissioner's office and the governor. And the event was tied directly to a registrant/license holder. The DCP was concerned where any of the weed, specifically flower, was coming from. So basically, if it was any other company that was out or private establishment or individual that hired Emerald Lounge and not somebody that was in the regulatory market, they would have absolutely no jurisdiction or care what was going on in the matter. So it was strictly because TheraPlant was involved. Some notes that I took out of the meeting was that the DCP, admitted they had no enforcement unless someone was acting as a cultivator, manufacturer, dispensary, or packager. We established that Emerald Lounge and associated events were falling under a private event on private property, and no THC was being supplied by anyone other than the person hosting the event. And all the sharing is being done in accordance to the social relationship and gifting laws. It was made clear by Emerald Lounge that at no point any exchange of funds were being made, not even tip jars, things like that could, question any of the legalities. The brewery, it was established that the brewery is obviously a private business and open to the public, and it's responsible for what's happening on its property, and they just have to basically give consent. The Liquor Commission did ask questions and said that they had no stake in what was taking place. No laws or violations were of concern to them. basically one of our biggest questions were, basically if someone in the regulatory market was holding an event, they could consider it private. And my question was, what is stopping an employee from going into a dispensary off the clock, purchasing, say, TheraPlant product, and bringing it back to a private event and sharing that? And what I wrote down pretty much verbatim is that, the off-duty employee could do that, and they are able to walk into any dispensary at any time and purchase their company's product or any other product and share that same product at a private event. And it is legal to do so as long as the products being purchased are available at all dispensaries under the same terms. It was discussed, and we acknowledged that any person or company that was renting Emerald Lounge would actually be renting and leasing the trailer for the duration of the event, meaning anything stored, shared, or prepared within the trailer would be as doing so in like their own home. So basically, that kind of took the liability of Emerald Lounge away, that even if we were like packing a joint or a bowl for somebody, it would not put them under acting as a manufacturer of any kind. I was actually pretty happy with how the conversation went. The Southington Police Department asked questions, and I think Noah and I were both really happy that he asked the questions that he did, because it kind of, let us see that most of law enforcement is not too familiar with the laws, and it gave us the chance to kind of let him know what our rights are. And he seemed pretty happy with everything too. And I know I'm probably missing a lot, but Noah, if you want to say anything, now would be a good time.
All right. Yeah. No. Thank you. That was a great
No,
summary.
can I interrupt you for a half second, boss? Harry, and a absolute freaking home run. And so, with that, Noah, please continue. I literally needed everyone in the organization to kind of hear the value that you guys are bringing in, the pioneering that you're doing, and the fact that that's going to also cost. And so, the community standing behind you is something that we should, as community members, feel a responsibility of doing, and getting involved with your social media and your Instagram pieces. But Noah, before you take off, can I just, Rebecca, when is Expo Canada this year?
February 8th and 9th.
Excellent. And we can find you at expocanada.com, right?
Yes, absolutely. And Expo Canada is a part of the CCSBA. And I'm just saying, I text Mike something really quick. I would love to put a legal panel together of you wonderful attorneys to come in and actually speak to our consumers and the general public about what their laws and rights are, because even like the normal consumer, with the amount of people that I talk to that have no idea that they're allowed to have 6 plants, per adult in the house, up to 12. They don't know things like that. And they don't know what to do if they get pulled over, and they don't know what to say if an officer is unaware of the law and they need to know what their rights are.
So Genevieve, would you reach out, and Aaron, also yourself, and I think we'll have obviously Sarah Westby from their legal firm a part, or try and get that engaged. But if you guys can have a private chat in regards to that, I think that's beyond a brilliant friggin' idea. Noah?
Yeah, I'm happy to whatever I can do to help. Absolutely.
Awesome. Noah, floor is yours, sir. I'm sorry to have interrupted.
Right. No apologies necessary. Rebecca, you did a great job. Just for anyone who's not aware, the Emerald Lounge, we took a 24-foot trailer and we built a lounge inside of it that we're focusing mostly as a consumption lounge, but could be a lounge for anything. So just people can have an idea. If you don't know what we are, that's what we're about. Yeah, our meeting with the DCP was a little bit of a surprise to be called into that, a little bit more of a surprise when TheraPlant decided to not show up, and even more of a surprise that TheraPlant didn't tell us that they weren't going to show up when I'd been in communication with them before. That aside, yeah, the meeting with DCP went excellent. We have a contact now of David Shlomsky. He's the principal drug control agent for the state. He's a friend to the community. I don't want to speak to violating anything, Rebecca, but I think you could speak to David Shlomsky, who he is a little bit.
Yeah, I've known David for 10 years. We saw each other in passing, never really discussed what we were doing in life. And when he showed up, I was like almost in shock because I'm like, I know him from somewhere. It took me 3/4 of the way through the meeting to figure it out, but I did. And, I know everybody has their opinion on the DCP, but knowing that I kind of have somebody that I can reach out to and have real conversations with, I'm more than happy to bring anybody's, opinions or anything like that to him if he will listen. And I've just always had a really great relationship with him. And believe it or not, he taught me a lot of what I know about smoking weed. like things that I didn't know medicinally until I started going to the dispensary and met him at the Healing Corner years ago.
Yeah, so just to let people know, I went into that thinking I was going to have to put up a fight. We walked out of that. He was extremely friendly, extremely helpful, and he impressed on us several times that if any, and again, they deal with licensees. If you're not a licensee, they don't have purview over you. So the Emerald Lounge, DCP doesn't actually have purview over us. Only the police do. And we were able to get clarification that everything that we want to do is legal. So it ended up being a wonderful meeting to have that, to be able to sit down with DCP, be able to have an open and honest conversation with him, and be able to lay out some scenarios of things we like to do, and to be able to find out that pretty much, yes, that's legal, and even to be able to find out where the boundaries really are, which were a little bit farther than I thought, it all ended up working out very well. And it was nice to see that somebody on the state side was very well informed. He was very knowledgeable, and he was very, very open to the marijuana industry in general. He was just pretty much saying, the legislators make the laws. He's in the position now to enforce the laws. And it's much better to have somebody like him who has previously worked in a dispensary than maybe somebody who has more of a legal background and isn't so familiar with the industry as everyone on this call is. And that's pretty much it. Again, thank you, Rebecca, for summarizing everything. And thank you for coming to the meeting and representing Emerald Lounge with me. That was a huge help.
Yeah, no, I love you guys and what you're doing. And I think you beautifully summed up how we both felt about leaving the meeting that day.
I think the real important thing, you guys, and Elena, we're going to get you, and Aaron, we're going to get to you. So just give me 1 second. But I think the really important takeaway is DCP is not our enemy. Your auditors are not your enemy. They are doing exactly what Noah just said. They're following the law. If we don't like something, it is our responsibility to use our voice and to lobby and to push to change it, or to be written into law. For me, right now, at the end of the day, I am at risk of a lot. And I'm not at risk because they're not kicking down my door and going to arrest us, but I'm at risk because the business I've been running for 5 years doesn't have the laws written in that I need them to have. And we as a group need to push and lobby to make sure that anything we need as a team, that means the transport licenses, the dispensaries, the manufacturers, everyone needs to be saying the same thing for each other. They need to be fighting for me, and I need to be fighting for them. We need to have a unified voice. We have been separated for far too long. And with that, these people are not our enemy. We might not like them. They might actually do harm to us because they are a part of enforcing that law, or being a part of making sure that law is followed. But it is us. We are the people that have to make that law change in order to stay compliant and to move forward. And with heroes like Genevieve and with heroes like the attorneys that are fighting for us, we can make a change. It just takes time. You have to persevere. With that, Elena, can you just introduce yourself and then direct your question at the appropriate people?
Hi, my name is Ilana. I am the owner.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. My name's Ilana. I'm the owner of Vibe Enhance, pretty much a curated cannabis friendly event planning business. We pretty much curate strands that matches the vibes of music, art, fashion, and technology. So I'm new in the space, but I'm a social worker, so I'm pretty familiar with advocacy, reading law. The use of AI has been very helpful with interpreting the law, especially when like reading laws on like where I can and cannot use cannabis. So in 2021, Connecticut actually adopted the tobacco laws. So you can't smoke anywhere where tobacco is not allowed. So I mean, in this generation time, it's 2024, there's not a lot of smoking areas in restaurants now, but calling up the restaurant owners if they are allowing, you to smoke in the cannabis in their facility, that's up to them. If not, 25 feet away from their business. But if you live in an area that has 50,000 people in it, there has to at least be one area that we could smoke in. So whoever snitched on Green Lounge is a bitch, to be honest, because why would you? Yeah, so like I mean, if it has a law that says we can't smoke anywhere where tobacco is, why is it such a big thing of like me smoking, on a walk? Like, why is that an issue where Lounge can't have their cannabis lounge in near their brewery? That's private property. So my main future right now, hopefully down the line, is to be a private owner and own a lounge myself. So, interpreting law, being involved, advocating, that's all I do for social work. But right now, I do want to focus on the fun side of cannabis, but, we can't do that unless we can fix the laws.
Thank you. And hallelujah. Aaron?
Hi, quick question for Noah, and maybe Rebecca remembers this. I was unable to be at the meeting. I'm very sorry about that. I was out of town. But I picked up the phone the minute that Rebecca called me when I was at this conference, and I called Dave Goldberg at Theraplant and asked, well, I don't know that I asked him why he wasn't there. He was in Arizona, so I know why he wasn't there. But I told him that this was a bummer and that the meeting had gone well, and I told him basically what you told me, Rebecca. I don't know, Noah, if you're going to be are you still coming to this event, or have you decided to opt out?
Oh, so Theraplant has canceled us, but as of Tuesday, thanks to you and thanks to Rebecca and the conversations that you all had, on Tuesday, they reached out to us and said that they're going to pay us in full.
Okay, that was where I was going. Okay.
Yes, Aaron, I forgot to fill you in on that, but I wanted to thank you because like that means so much to the small business, the only one that really affected in this.
This is terrible. The only people that lose are the smallest business, so you got to make it right. So I'm glad he did. He said
and yes, for the record, Theraplant did that
with him because I'm doing this DEA stuff. I've got a deadline tomorrow, so I'm doing that in addition to my regular job. So that's good. No, Rebecca's you guys take all the credit. I'm just saying that, I don't think Theraplant wants to be our enemy either. GCP doesn't want to be, and Theraplant, I said, dude, this is exactly the PR move you should not have made. So you got to make it right. So he did. So, props for that. And I don't know why he didn't send someone else, because I didn't even know this was happening. So anyway,
I think it might have been communication errors, but I mean, overall, I kind of even understand that Theraplant just doesn't want to ruffle feathers, if you will. Either. I get it from both sides, but they made right, so that means a lot.
They definitely get their asses kicked on the daily by the BCP. That's enough.
And Noah, I think there's two things to point out here. First off, for all of our community, Theraplant has changed ownership. Theraplant is now transitioned into an ownership that's actually local to Connecticut. And so they are moving into a very different level of what they once were. And as a community, we should be supportive of any organization that is going from a national, we don't give a shit about the consumer and we're going to sell the crappiest crap that there is just because we're here to make a buck. And when the buck is not able to be made, we're going to move on and leave a gaping hole. The reality is there is a transition that's happening within that organization. And I think everybody should look at Theraplant in a new light, and have a fresh start at what their evaluation of that organization is going to be. And so my call to action to the community is look at them as a new entity and judge them starting from now, not the past problems that they've had and gone through.
Yes,
Um,
to that.
yep, yep, absolutely.
Yes, and
And
their team they do have a very wonderful team over there, and they're very committed, even more so now, to going to the dispensaries and talking to people and sampling with people, and that's great too.
And they've given
absolutely.
me specific promises to help me get more patient-needed products on the market. They're doing some decent grows. I took a couple tours there. So there's hope. There really is. I appreciate what you're saying about the change in ownership. Just from my point of view, they and Affinity and maybe Fine Fettle are the only producers and growers that have reached out to me, despite my reaching out to, the Veranos and the GTIs of the world. So it's interesting, but I appreciate it. Goldberg made it right. So
100%. And Noah, if you choose to show up there anyway, I think we can really push some of the community to show up in support. So we're in support of you, brother. You just ask what you need.
I appreciate that. And yeah, just to go back to TheraPlant and my contact over there, when I got the call on Tuesday, he very clearly said, yep, I had a conversation with the CEO earlier today, and this is what we decided to do. It was something that they obviously, and you can downplay your part in this, Aaron, but that conversation matters. It's just sometimes conversations between the right two people make all the difference.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. We are at the top of we're well past our time, but I started 6 minutes late, so I was willing to go a little late. I do have to keep us to a window. Is there anybody with a pressing question? For our farmers that are on the call today, was this of value to you? I think we've lost most of them.
No, it was fantastic. Are you kidding?
That was very good, Mike.
Yeah, listening to every word, and I took notes. I know I didn't need to because AI did, but I took notes too. Thank you. Brilliant. All the people in the room, brilliant.
Mike, you started with a discussion about something that happened with Instagram and everything. I see DJ didn't make it to the call. Have you got anything?
Kristen is on the call and is totally up to date with all of this. Sorry for chiming in.
Can I put you on the pedestal or the spike, whichever way you might see it?
However we look at it. Yeah, sure. So there certainly have been some updates to the algorithm. So Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, have always been very strict and not particularly cannabis friendly. There are a number of people that got their accounts shut down, and one of which was actually one of my marketing clients. And they were very, very, very clean about not sharing certain things. So I guess twofold. I'm not sure what exactly DJ was going to go over, but I would say if you did get your account deactivated or banned for some reason, there are some steps that you can take to try to get that back. One of which is having folks report it. There's a few steps, and I can share them if needed. But you go through and you share it, and you say that person, should have their account back for XYZ reason. But one of the main things is really having a cannabis-related account that is more focused on educational aspects or political legislation type things. You really want to shy away from showing actual consumption that's not within the terms of service. You certainly can't be selling anything. You really want to go into your settings and set it so that your account is 18 plus. And a lot of people have been saying that if you pay for the verification for the blue check, then it makes it a little less likely that you will be shut down. But I say, you know, generally, just don't use the word cannabis in your captions and things like that. Be careful about the hashtags that you're using. Don't show a lot of flower or open consumption on your account and things like that. And for businesses, just be very careful about how you're phrasing it, because you cannot say that it's for medical purposes without the FDA disclosure at the bottom. So those are all things that get people caught up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Kristen, and Ken, if you have anything to add, please unmute and add it. But what really happened from MJ BizCon is it was annihilation by association. You might have done nothing wrong, but because you were associated or consistently reposting of someone who got punished, you were shut down also. And so it was more of a daisy chain effect than it was targeting specific. So there's really nothing you could have done now to go back and necessarily fix or be afraid of, but be more conscious. Exactly what Kristen just said. Be extraordinarily conscious. And I know you have advice from the mentors that are here. That's Kristen. Ken, I'm going to ask you real quick. Is our AI able to help people double check verbiage? Is there an AI piece that would help us stay safe? I know the algorithms change, and so we can't always or we can't guarantee anything. But outside of reaching out for consulting support from either you or Kristen or whomever, Kristen, you're being asked for your contact information. Can you just provide that? And oh, by the way, all of our board can be contacted through our website. But Ken, is there an AI platform that can maybe help us with some of that?
Yeah, so it's the way you prompt it. So you would just have to say, like, rephrase my Facebook post to be compliant with Facebook policies and procedures or terms and conditions, and then have it write it. So ChatGPT would absolutely be your tool for that.
And that's going to give you your 90% edited version. You're going to want to go back and just finalize that version, right?
Right.
Awesome.
Correct.
Awesome. All right, folks, we are 23 minutes past the hour. I do see Aaron. Is your hand still up from the past, or is that a new hand?
Sorry.
Nope, you're good.
I'm flashing peace signs. Over and out.
All right, folks. God bless. I know we had a couple of other topics to discuss where we're out of time. Thank you so much for participating in today. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.